Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we're stepping into a conversation I wish I'd had when I was in the thick of it. I'm joined by my friend Mónica Fernandes, who I met the way I've met so many brilliant, luminous women lately, on Substack. Mónica writes the Goddess Journal, and her work is devoted to women navigating transformation after divorce. The heartbreak, the identity unraveling, the lonely hours when your nervous system is loud and you're trying to figure out who you are now that the life you had planned has been stripped down to the studs. And let me say this up front. Divorce is not just paperwork. It's grief. It's a nervous system event. It's a recalibration of the self. And in my own life, even though my divorce was a long time ago, I can still remember the moment a healer asked me, "What do you like to do when your kids aren't around?" And I froze. I had no answer. I didn't know who I was outside of marriage and motherhood. I didn't know what I liked. In this episode, Mónica and I talk about what happens when the helper finally realizes she's self-abandoning and what it looks like to choose yourself without guilt. We explore Mónica's Goddess Method, a healing ladder that breaks recovery into baby steps, because when you're crying on the bathroom floor, just practice self-care is not actionable. We get into why self-care isn't selfish, it's strategy, how grief has to move through you to move out of you, why time is actually your friend, and how rebuilding your relationship with money can become one of the most unexpectedly empowering parts of the post-divorce journey. We also talk about the importance of soul sisters, the support system that catches you when your family or friends don't know what to say, and how healing doesn't just change you, it creates a ripple effect. One woman heals, and suddenly she becomes a lighthouse for someone else. If you're in a season where the old structure can't hold anymore, if you're rebuilding your foundation, relearning your worth, or simply trying to breathe through the mess, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today I am here with my new friend, Mónica Fernandes, who I met on Substack, as I have so many beautiful, talented goddesses. And Mónica's Substack is called The Goddess Journal. And your focus, Mónica, is on women who are going through a transformation post-divorce. I am so excited to talk. We've been chatting beforehand, and we just already have so much in common. So I'm so excited to dive in. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled. This is, my jam. I love talking about this stuff. Even though
Me
it's a
too.
hard, the heartbreak recovery is always challenging, but it's the women that go through it. It's certainly happens to the best of us.
It does. So dive into that a little bit more. I went through a horrific divorce, but it seems like it was a long, long, long time ago, and I'm now fully on the other side of it, and I can now look at it with fresh eyes that perhaps this was something as horrible as it was that was needed to get me to this place where I am more open and aware and connected than I was previous to that. But tell us a little bit more about your own experience and why you're now writing about this topic.
Yes. So my experience started, I would say, over 14 years ago. So I didn't just get divorced. So this experience, I decided to help women in this specific area because I've gone through it. And I think it's very hard to expect someone that's never gone through a divorce to help someone that is going or has gone through a divorce, because everybody can imagine what it would be like to be divorced. I think all of us that have been divorced maybe at one time or another thought, oh my God, when I'm divorced, I'm going to do this and that and this and that. But the actual process of it, it's different for everyone, but it can be extremely heartbreaking. And in my research, what I found was that not everybody heals the same, and some women actually never heal from it.
Mm.
And that made me so sad because healing does not have a timeline and you can't promise it. You can't say, "Oh yes, in a couple of months you're going to feel brand spanking new and everything's going to be perfect in your life." No, it takes time. Obviously, it depends on a lot of different variables, but my own experience was traumatic, like it is for, I think, most women, but you get through it on the other side. And years later, 2, 3 years ago, that I decide to help women in this specific hard time of their lives, because I thought, one, I am equipped to help them because I've gone through it. And I have enough time now past that I can take great lessons from it and help people a little bit better.
From my experience, well, I mean, the fact of the matter is nobody gets married thinking that they're going to get divorced, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so much of what I went through was, I would say, a loss of identity and also having no idea who I was outside of marriage and parenthood. And I've
Mhm.
talked about this on the podcast before that I spoke with a healer soon after my divorce. And she asked me, "Well, Sarah, what do you like to do when your kids aren't around in your free time?" And I froze and I think started crying because I had no idea. I had no answer whatsoever. Talk a little bit about your own experience and the women that you work with, what that feels like and how you can move past that.
So after divorce, most women feel broken. Like you said, the entire future that you had mapped out, poof, gone. The person you loved and you entered into an emotional and legal contract with is no longer there. And lots of women feel heartbroken. That's totally normal. And they're depleted. Some of us metabolize this in different ways. There's anger and disappointment and shame, feeling like you failed. It's a loss, like you said, so you're grieving, you're
Yeah.
sad. And sometimes it feels like you're at the bottom of an abyss and you can't see a way out. The pendulum has swung so much that it's normal to feel lost, to not know what you like to do. You can't answer that question, right? And you need a path toward healing when you're in that because you just can't see your way out. You don't know what it looks like. It's ups and downs. One minute you're fine, and the next you're bawling your eyes out on the floor of your bathroom, and you wanna
Yep,
hide
been
from the
there.
world.
Yep. Yep. Spent a lot of time on
So
the bathroom floor. Yes.
yeah, and it can happen in the most weird places too.
Yeah.
And so how do you get out of it, in the goddess method, which is the framework that I teach, phase 4 is actually self-care, and I use different goddesses as guides to help with the process. And one of the goddesses I use in self-care is Aphrodite, who her motto is self-care isn't selfish, it's strategy. And that emptiness, that depletion, your love tank is empty and you have to fill it back up. It's like you can't run your car on empty. It's not an option. So it's not about being selfish. It's actually mandatory. Because
Mm.
what happens if you don't fill it up? You're stuck, like the car breaks down, right? And some people choose to stay stuck. I've also met women that are in this loop of I can't get out of it, but it feels familiar.
Mm.
And they don't feel like they deserve
Mm.
healing.
Mm.
And so they basically sacrifice themselves. That's why I said it's not selfish. You have to take care of yourself because otherwise you're never going to move forward. You're never going to heal. So it takes courage to take that step and it takes strength that you don't think you have to pull yourself back up. So yes, self-care is a strategy and a way of realigning and feeling like yourself again.
I think so much of what's at the core of that is a lack of self-worth too. I definitely felt, at a base level, women can feel like, well, I failed, regardless of whose fault the divorce was or what the circumstances are. Still, like, this is something that you had imagined for yourself going a specific way and lasting forever, and it's gone. And so, what's coming to mind to me, you lose touch with your intuition in a way. I know that when I was in my marriage, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. It felt divinely inspired. And when things that you pour your heart into and that you know at some point is what you're supposed to be doing is your path, and then it doesn't work out, it's stitching back together all pieces of yourself.
Yes. We're also busy taking on roles to take care of everybody else, right? So you're the daughter, you're the wife, the partner, the mother, the friend, the coworker, etc. And somewhere along the way, sometimes without even realizing, because we're putting fires out for everybody else except ourselves.
So I'm thinking about some of the advice that I received as I was going through my divorce. And there were a lot of things that were along those lines. Okay, you have to take care of yourself. Put your oxygen mask on before you can
Yes,
take care of anybody
exactly.
else. And, there is a mountain that we have to climb in terms of healing, and you can go around and around the mountain, or you can go to the top of the mountain. These things weren't super helpful because when you're in that dark, dark space, when you hear things like that, logically you're like, yeah, sure, but I don't feel like I can. So in the goddess method, how do you inspire women that they can do this?
So you break it down. I identify what I call the healing ladder. So you don't have to do everything at once. You take baby steps. And some of these steps are going to be really easy and others are going to be really hard. But they're baby steps. And so I find, for me at least, the first step was the hardest, which is that emotional chaos. And you still have to go through it. You have to go through it. There's no other way out. You have to go through that fog to come out of that mist and see a path in front of yourself. And that is honoring your emotions and working with those emotions. And it's a lot of emotional dumping. I use tools like journaling and meditation, all of the tools that we all love. It really is a time to take a look at yourself and feeling those emotions. There's nothing really wrong
Mm,
with feeling those emotions. You just have to feel them. You can't swallow them because what happens when you swallow the emotions? They just fester in you and it just rots, you know? And so you need to actually let them out and it's okay to release. So that's the first phase is really that release of all of that emotional piece that can feel a little painful.
mhm.
You're not the only one going through it. There's many people have gone through it, and how long you stay there, it's everybody's different, but you have to go through that first piece. And then once you go through the emotions, you can begin to shift a little. You shift
That
a little.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. Another piece of advice that I received that was I was very resistant to, but that actually was the piece that I think launched me out of the depression that
Mhm,
I was in, is that you need to sit by yourself. And
mhm.
it was very, very difficult to just sit and be because that external chaos was completely internalized. And so when I was by myself, it felt impossible for me to turn off that chaotic feeling and to find that peace and solace inside of myself. And so I was really, really resistant. Soon as I separated, I just filled my life with so many things. And now looking back at it, I have no idea how I did as much as I did back then
Mhm.
because now I do very, very little. But I think it was a coping mechanism to just ignore that internal chaos and not confront it.
Yes. But the thing is that not only are we going through these very hard emotions, but we are our own worst critics. We're so hard on ourselves and we beat ourselves up for feeling these things. And why is it being so hard? Why can't I be like so and so? And she's out dating, she's out doing things. You know what I mean? So you really have to honor and look at yourself as if you were consoling or giving advice to your best friend. So not make it so that you wouldn't tell your best friend, "Oh yeah, stay with those emotions. Just stay there. I don't want to
Right.
hear you." You know what I mean? You wouldn't say those things. So you really have to be kind to yourself and show yourself some grace. And I think that the timing is the only thing that can't be promised. It really is very personal to everybody. But I think the first step is you no longer want to feel that way.
You have to make that decision.
That catapults you into, okay, so now how do I get out of this fog? How do I get out of this abyss? And that's, one of the reasons that I do this work.
So, in the goddess method, why have you chosen to call in goddesses? What can they teach us and how do they give a
Okay.
framework to transforming after divorce?
So I have to be honest with you. I think the goddess framework was almost downloaded, if that makes sense. I
Really?
didn't think I set myself up where, oh, you know what? I'm going to start a program and I'm going to have, what goddesses should I pick? Should I pick this one? Should I pick that one? And all of a sudden, I have 11 goddesses that are like, I want in. I want to be the guide. I want to be the guide of this. And this is, so I don't see them so much as archetypes, even though that's, I know, a word that people like to use. I see them as guides of all of these little phases because they all have something to teach us. And I see goddesses as the divine feminine. It's almost like this beautiful faceted diamond, and each facet of the diamond is a goddess. And so it's how you look at it. It's the prism, it's that lens, and it's always very nurturing and very empowering. I don't know. They're awesome. I love my goddesses. And it's not rooted in any religion or anything like that. Yes, they come from mythology, etc. But I chose them, and they kind of just revealed themselves in this healing ladder that I created. And I thought to myself, "Oh, there's too many of them, you know? Why shouldn't there be 11 of them? I could have had 30. I could have had, I don't know. It just happened to be that way." So I find it's the framework that is non-invasive, and it's very soothing and nurturing, and it's helpful to kind of as external guides to kind of guide where you are. So that's why I call it the goddess method.
I love that. And
It's
yeah, I mean, as goddess in training, I feel like they are always here to guide us. And that's kind of the
Mhm.
purpose. And people can relate to
Yes,
different goddesses in different ways. And they're within us. I love that diamond
yes, yes,
analogy because we're all a part of that same diamond, that same prism.
exactly, exactly.
That makes me think, though, when I was going through divorce, I felt so lonely, even though so many people have gone through divorce.
Mhm, mhm,
I didn't feel like there was anybody I could reach out to. I was very young. Most of my friends were just getting
mhm.
married as I was getting divorced. So there was that. But even my family, my mother was divorced. People, it felt like they were uncomfortable giving advice. Do you find that is common? And why are we so reluctant to sit and be with people who are grieving and going through these kinds of struggles?
I think that you can feel inadequate and
Mhm,
uncomfortable in the presence of something of someone that is not at their highest and best self.
mhm.
And going through a divorce is one of those times in your life that it's sucks because it's a huge life transition. And there's also stigma attached to it, I think. The shame, like you said before, nobody sets out to get divorced. We all have these big plans. We all want these relationships to be, this is our partner for life and we're going to do life with them. Nobody's gets married to get divorced. So in a lot of ways, either if you don't find people that can help you or feel uncomfortable, even if they've gone through it, maybe it does remind them of a time in their life that is awful. It's probably the most awful time of their life. And
Mm,
maybe they're not completely healed.
mm.
Because I did market research before I launched this program, and one of the things I found in surveying women that had been divorced at all ages, was that there was a segment that refused to heal.
Mm.
Okay. And this was, I felt, maybe I'm judging this, it was generational. It was women that were above 65, I would say, that felt like they were not worthy to heal. So they basically took this divorce as like a crux for the rest of their life. And
Mm.
that made me so sad, but I knew I couldn't help them because
Mhm.
they had made the choice. So obviously my program is not for them. It's for the woman that wants to get out of this terrible, terrible time of their life and move forward and have a new plan, a new plan. Find what the new plan is. And maybe
Mhm.
that's not immediate right away. And that's okay. That's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
You don't have to know it. I had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, it's hard to retrace or to even dream and imagine what life could be like when you're not feeling in that dream mode, when you're basically in that rut of feeling alone, feeling that you can't see past the hurt. Um,
Mm.
and yes, loneliness is a piece that is important. I am a big believer in therapy. I did therapy throughout. I did individual, I did couples, I did, I'm a huge believer. And my program is not a replacement for that at all. It's not a replacement. It's a when therapy is not in session and it's nighttime
Mm.
and they're by themselves,
Mhm.
instead of being in a rut, you can be focused on something and some tasks that can help you before the morning. So, my point is that there are support systems that you can find. If your friends don't feel uncomfortable around you,
Yeah.
you know, that can happen too. Family members, just because they're family doesn't mean that they're the best ones to give you advice sometimes. But at the same time, there are support systems. And I do think that therapy is a huge help. And isolating yourself is okay until a certain point. Until a certain point, I
Just going back to what you said about demographics and women who have just decided that they're not going to heal, I it made me think. I was just visiting family over the holidays, and I come from divorced parents. My biological sister is divorced. I am divorced, and we were sitting down with my mother, and we talk about this. I did a podcast episode with my sister a couple of weeks ago, and my mom said that she knew when she got married that she was gonna get divorced, but she felt like I can put 20 years in and then I'll do something else after that. And it was so interesting for my sister and me to hear that. And I, who knows if that is hindsight, or but I saw that as an opening to healing. That I do think that she would fit in that demographic of people who are just like, all right, have kind of taken that on as their personality and felt like they're not worthy. And she definitely expressed a lot of feelings of not being worthy of love at this point in her life, or probably felt that right after the divorce and through her entire
Mhm.
adult life. But just to push back a little bit, I think we're in this place where there is an overall awakening, and where people who may not have been open to healing and thinking about these things and looking inward and kind of figuring out the real root cause of some of these experiences in our lives. I think that maybe there might be some openings there. At least I saw it with my mom.
That's fantastic, which means that if there's a sliver of opening, there's hope. There's hope. And it really is individual. So of course, the reason that I went forward to develop the course is that I found that the vast majority was willing to help themselves and they wanted to heal and they were open to going from one point A to point B, which is
Mhm.
what you want to do. All of a sudden, you need to dream up another avenue, go to a different road that you didn't think was gonna be there.
I was so happy to hear my mom at least entertaining these thoughts,
Mhm.
because we are all worthy of abundance and feeling good in every moment. And it's
Absolutely.
just so heartbreaking to see people who've just accepted this
Mhm.
place of heartbreak that they've just lived in.
Yeah.
And then it manifests in so many different ways. But yeah, I think there's always a chance. And
You
we're in
know,
this time.
yes, and healing can have growing pains, and it can
Hmm.
be scary and uncomfortable. Like I said, some women bounce right back, others take more time. And whenever you're trying to heal from divorce, the timeline is different. There's no right or wrong way. It's a loss. You have to grieve. You have to grieve,
Yeah.
pure and simple. And whoever told you it was going to be easy was trying to sell you something. Okay, it's not
Oh, yeah.
easy and it takes work, but you're the captain of your own ship. And
Definitely.
you don't have to run your life by anyone, really. I mean, you have to go inward, and it sucks while it's happening, but as the saying goes, this too shall pass.
So you write a lot about the financial aspect of divorce and how important it is for women to regain that financial stability. Talk a little bit about that piece of it.
The reason I bring up finances is because a lot of times finances can be a huge problem once you get divorced. Divorce sometimes when you have kids, it's even more prevalent because there's child support and alimony, and you have to divide assets and you have to basically just, really do math on your life to separate and to actually divide everything. And that can be very overwhelming. In my case, one of the problems in my marriage was money. I was always trying to fix everything. One party had a value of, I'm going to spend, 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 even if I don't have it. And the other one's like, well, if you don't have it, you don't spend it.
Hmm.
So the whole marriage was a lot of managing debt and trying to stay afloat. And there was a lot of hiding of debt. And part of the reason that I stayed in the marriage was my own insecurity that I couldn't provide for myself because I was so used to living in this. I'm not going to say it at times it was paycheck to paycheck, but it was in this, you're trying to keep your head above water, but the truth is the entire body is below water. At the time, I really didn't think that I could provide for myself solely. And it turns out that was complete BS because I was carrying the debt and I was carrying responsibility of it was 3 of us in the
Hmm.
marriage because I had a stepson. Everything was divided up. So turns out that post-divorce, I was like, "Hey, I don't owe any money. Oh my
Wow.
god. Wow! Look at that. I can actually pay the mortgage." I didn't have all this other financial responsibility. So I do think that it's not as easy as I make it sound, but it does take tools to be able to manage that piece because if that was a big issue in your life, then you do need to manage that to live not beyond your means, but work with what you have. And then, you have to be proactive in managing those expenses and between income and expenses. So you have to empower yourself. And I think that was very liberating for me once I realized, man, I can actually do this. And this happens quite a bit. The woman is not the one that's managing the finances.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're divorced, all of a sudden, you don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
Electric bill, what's that? I mean, in my case, I knew because I ended up having to take over the finances because somebody else couldn't. So it was, a different thing, but a lot of times people don't know how to do that. So there's a learning curve in how to do that. But I think we're all capable. We're all capable because we can do anything.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
if we don't know how to do it, we learn. We can be
Hmm.
proactive. With so many resources nowadays, there's
Hmm.
a lot of tools to help you do that.
And money at its essence is energy. I think when you have a lot of negativity associated with money, especially in a union like that, it becomes so heavy. And then I can definitely see how empowering it can be to then manage it all
To free
yourself.
that.
and manage the energy around it too. And
Yeah.
to see, well, I put this effort in and I see this return rather than, well, I'm putting all this effort in. That was my marriage actually all around. Like I am trying, I am doing, I am putting every ounce of my energy into making this work on the finance,
Mhm.
taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, the emotional load. And I think a lot of women
Yeah.
experience that. And then you end up being depleted when you leave.
Yes, absolutely.
Beyond self-care, my experience is it just took time actually to regain that energy that I had lost.
Time is your friend. Time is your
Mhm.
friend. I mean, I know that we view time sometimes negatively, and I'm guilty of that myself as I'm aging. I'm like, "Oh my god, hey, you know, the week goes by really fast. Everything's going by really fast." But when you're healing, I do believe time does tend to ease a little of that emotional load. Time is a human construct, right? So we can't say, "Oh, hey, I got divorced, signed the papers Monday. Let's see what's on my calendar. Yeah, by next month I should be good." No, that's not going to happen that way. I wish it would. You press a button and it's done. But you have to be really compassionate with yourself and willing to do the hard work to just go through this loss. It's a loss and you have
Mhm.
to grieve it. And sometimes things can trigger it back up. And having those triggers, even if it's like years later, sometimes something will remind you, oh my God, I remember that. That didn't feel good. But there's the time really is a contrasting piece of it because you're like, okay, now I'm far away from it. I can look at it differently.
I love that you say that, and I'm laughing at myself a little bit because I'm now, I don't know how many years past my divorce, 16, I think.
Yeah.
Hard to keep track because the actual
That's
divorce
okay.
took many, many years. But
Yes,
anyway,
yes, and that's can happen, that can happen. Imagine
but
if you
I,
have to get divorced in 2 countries, which was my case, but,
yeah,
let's
oh,
not go there.
geez. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
2
logistics of that, I
lawyers,
couldn't even.
just think about it. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, but I definitely got triggered, and it's so interesting that I remember being confronted by somebody in, like, a benign kind of social setting who
Mhm.
didn't even look like my ex-husband, but had some kind of energy that just sent me into a tizzy. I guess I would describe it as an anxiety attack, and there was nothing other than something internal that happened. And I'm laughing because time really does heal. I'm in this new relationship. And I would say that I turned away from anybody who resembled my ex in any way, shape, or form. I don't think I dated really any white men because, like, I just went way, way far in the other direction, but I think is common. And I'm now dating a white man who has a lot of similarities to my ex-husband, and I find
Yeah.
myself kind of sitting with that and kind of testing myself and like, okay, am I feeling any kind of sort of way? And I think it's an indication of how healed I am and how far in the
Mhm.
past all of that
Yes.
trauma was. Because I'm like, no, I'm good. This is my person. This
So
is who I'm supposed to be
yeah,
with.
Sarah, you bring up such a good point about healing after divorce and recognizing these things that you're recognizing, right? But you are very conscientious of what's happening. You are recognizing the pattern, but you're
Mm.
basically saying, I'm not projecting this into because, okay, yes, this is reminding me of this, but I'm not going to take this. And this has nothing to do with this person, right?
Yeah.
So you're recognizing it by acknowledging it and be like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Okay. You're basically separating yourself from it. And I think, yes, time does that, but also you're healed enough that you can say, wait a minute, this is not the same person.
And I
Even
would
if
say
it's
too,
reminiscent of this or that, you know?
I believe that we are given people to help us on our journey and to help us heal.
Hmm.
And there's an
Yes.
aspect of it too where I am now remembering pieces of my ex-husband that were positive, and which was very difficult to do
Absolutely.
for a very long time. And kind of
Takes a
going
lot of
back.
healing for that to happen.
Yeah, yeah, but going back to the version of myself that first met him and the
Hmm.
reasons why I was attracted to him, and realizing that there was truth in that, that there's truth in some of those characteristics that I then for a very long time turned away from. And now here I am returning to someone who has a lot of those characteristics. That in itself is healing because it's forgiving myself and forgiving him at a very deep level that I didn't think was possible, actually.
It happens, and I think time does help with that because it puts distance
Mhm.
from that experience. And of course, not everything is going to be bad. Hopefully, not everything's going to be bad that happened in your marriage. You're going to maybe have good memories, and sometimes love has nothing to do with it,
Mhm.
which I'm a big believer in that. I never stopped loving my ex-husband, and that had nothing to do with love.
Mhm.
So you do recognize the pieces that, oh yeah, that I remember that. That was, an ancient lifetime ago. But yes, you're far away removed from it that you can say, yes, I remember that. And you might smile about it because, you're healed.
Going back to the self-care piece, because I think that's really at
Hmm.
the crux of all healing
Hmm.
from any kind of
Yes,
trauma,
absolutely.
and divorce is
Yeah.
definitely a trauma. How do you describe strategic self-care? How is the goddess method different than other modalities of self-care?
Goddess method is not better or worse than another modality. It's just a specific framework. So for women that resonate with that divine feminine, then this is for them. And if some people like goddesses, oh, hell no, then you can find another modality. It's just like martial arts. You have a lot of different methods for self-defense. Is not better than another. Whatever you vibe with. At at the base and foundation of the goddess method, there's a lot of coping mechanisms of things to make you heal. Writing, I mean, we're both writers. Writing is a big piece of it because I do feel that writing can be very therapeutic. Journaling in this case is journaling because that's like that dumping. It's like the truly dumping without any type of crafting anything. You just want to get rid of it.
Mhm.
That's very therapeutic. And you can destroy that you create, or you can look back on it and be like, wow, look how far I've come from that. So, yeah, writing is a big piece of it. Self care looks different for everybody. I mean, someone may think, a bubble bath with some champagne might be your ideal self care. That might be your jam. Others be like, oh my God, a bathtub, gross. No, I don't want to do that. I'd rather, go walk on the beach, or I'd rather go to a yoga class or do some meditation or whatever your jam is. And there's different tools here, visualization and meditation and journaling and natural therapies, healing medicine of nature that there's so many different tools that you can employ, and I give a lot of that in the program. But I do think it's very personal what people will vibrate with. Some people might vibrate more with the writing part, other people might vibrate, wait, there's a checklist for me to do this. I love checklists. Let me just check off, all of these great things that I can do for myself. And it's, everybody has their own ways that they prefer. So I'm not going to be the judge of saying, oh no, that method is not good or that tool is not good for you. It really is personal, but it's whatever really basically puts your energy in a really great space. It really
Mm,
is for you. Is so for you to align yourself back to you. And
mm,
and you had said, at the end you didn't know who you were, and that happens a lot. And so this journey, this healing ladder, it really helps with finding that person again. And maybe it's finding a new version of you, because it's not, you're not healing the person that got married, you're healing the person that's gone through all of this, and maybe you've evolved, and what you want out of life you may discover, because there's a lot of that piece too in my program of trying to figure out what it is that you want. So, and that comes, that starts with figuring out what you don't want, which is a lot easier sometimes, to figuring out what you don't want, right? And then kind of build that map of what you do want and what you can envision. So there's a hope and a new plan of action for your future. You're rewriting it, and that could be really anything.
So many women that I know who have been through divorce or really
Mhm.
significant breakups, dark night of the
Yeah.
soul, um, they, without exception, come through on the other side kind of embodying a goddess in a way. I didn't know you before your divorce, but you definitely have like confident goddess energy. You know what you want, you're getting
Yeah.
shit done. And I like to think that about myself too. How is it to watch women go through this transformation?
I don't wanna say it's like a drug, but it's so amazing to see someone empowered. I taught Reiki for many years, over a decade, and primarily to women. And women would come to me to learn this, hands-on healing method for very different reasons. Some was because they had a physical ailment they wanted to address, others was a loved one, they thought they could help a loved one, us women always trying to take care of others. For whatever reason, so when I would teach them Reiki, that to me was a high. It's the same kind of high where you teach a method and you say, "Hey, you use it. You do it." And the first thing that you learn is taking care of self. Taking care of self. It's not taking care of others. It's like the analogy you used earlier about the oxygen mask. Who are you gonna help if you can't breathe?
Mhm, mhm,
So that empowerment part where someone gets it, they learn, they feel, "Oh my God, I do," and they would come to me and then they would say, I did this and this happened and this happened and this happened. And so all of that is so empowering to see others evolve.
mhm,
So that to me is, I feel like, is this helping the woman love herself and realize that they are whole and complete already. They have to really get that. They really have to come to that conclusion themselves. I can show you the way. I can give you all of these goddesses, all of these tools, but you have to feel it. And once they do, then that's beautiful. That's beautiful. What is more beautiful than seeing, it's not a goddess in training anymore, it's a goddess. We're all
mhm,
goddesses. Yes, in training, because we're not perfect and there's always work to be done. We're always learning and always adapting and evolving. But to see someone else do it, that's an amazing, empowering thing. It's beautiful, I
mhm,
love it. I love it.
mhm. Yeah, I
It's
love
more
it so
people in
much
the
that
world, more people in the world like that is what we need.
right, right. And then there's the exponential effect of watching one woman heal, and then so many of us
Yeah.
then become healers ourselves.
Yes.
And then fewer people, fewer women are going to feel alone like I did when I was divorced
Yes,
because now I am equipped and I have the tools that
absolutely.
if I have a friend going through that, I'm not going to turn my back and I'm not going to, yeah, turn away because I haven't confronted that darkness inside of myself. One thing you made me think of in what you were saying too is that we are complete and whole. And I think that's part of the the downside of beliefs around marriage in and of itself, that we need some person to complete us. And I
Behold.
think that
Yeah.
that's part of what needs to be healed when you do find yourself alone again.
So one of the things that I realized, this was my personal experience and everybody's different, was once I was divorced, I loved being by myself. I loved it. I loved that discovery part. I can blast my music as loud as I want. I can do whatever I want. I don't have to answer to anyone. I don't have to do anything. It's me. It's me, and I love my own company. Did it feel lonely at times? Yes. But this is one of the things we did not cover, and I'm going to mention it here because it's so important. You need your soul sisters. You
Mm.
need those sister friends, that support system outside of therapy and outside of your family. You need those people that are your biggest cheerleaders, that are going to lift you up, and you do the same for them when they need it. That is paramount, and it is important. You don't need 10 million friends, but you need the one or two. Maybe they've gone through it, maybe they haven't, it doesn't matter, because that support system is essential. It really is, because we know how to take care of each other better than sometimes we take care of ourselves.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That is true. It does feel easier to take care of other people than it does ourselves
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Because I think that it's all about the programming. We could talk for hours about that. Um, I do believe that we have to have that recognition that we're not damaged, we're not broken. We may feel it at the time because this was a it's a major thing in our lives, but this is temporary.
Mhm.
This is temporary. We're filling ourselves back up. We're going to fill that tank back up, our love tank, and that means self-love so that we can put the mask on and then we can help the world, but we need to fill ourselves back up.
And it's
That's
not who we
essential.
are. This is something that happened to us that we were a participant in, but it's
Yes.
not who we are. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does not define you. It does not define you, but it may give you life experience that you couldn't even buy if you wanted to, and it will open doors for you of things that you probably never imagined for yourself. I mean, sometimes I look at my past, I almost called it a past life now, but it kind of feels like it was a different person, and it was a different person. I was a different person, much younger. Whatever I had thought of my life was completely different than now. And so I do believe that we evolve, and that our wishes and dreams change and evolve, and now you're the writer of this new book, this new chapter. If you don't know what it looks like, that's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, if we knew everything that was going to happen, what fun would it be to be doing any of this, right?
I never could have mapped out my life if I tried. It's been
Same, same.
a winding road. So, Monica, what's next for you? What are you excited about that's coming up?
Well, my program, I have a waiting list happening right now for when the program does open. So I'll make sure that you have that. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about continuing writing on Substack. Writing for me is like ingrained in my bones. So it's like breathing oxygen. So I got to do it all the time. But so that I would say that that's next for me. Yeah.
How did your writing change throughout your healing process? Did it stay constant or did you see kind of
So
ebbs and flows as you were healing?
So it depends on what kind of writing you're talking about.
Yeah, your creative
I
writing
mean, my
specifically.
creative
Yeah.
writing. My
Yeah.
creative writing, I have a little bit of and I hate to say the attention deficit to writing projects because there's so many, but I never wanted to be typecast or typecast myself in a specific thing. So I have all these projects. I do feel that when you are experiencing a lot of emotion, whether it's good or bad, it really is fuel for creativity. I can read one of my old poems and I know exactly why I wrote that or what I was going through writing that. So it really is a legacy in my writing of all of the steps that I've been on in my journey, but also in my creative process that has changed. I mean, I don't specifically write nonfiction. I do a lot of fiction as well. So it's always fun. I think I have gotten better. I think, practice makes perfect, they say. I don't know about perfection. I think that's a nice goal. The more you do it, the easier it is. That has changed in terms of I have a lot of material. A lot of material. After my divorce, if we're talking about my divorce, I still wanted a partner. I still wanted to share my life with someone. So at that time, I only knew women. I networked around women. I did business with women. So I wasn't going to say, "Hey, do you know anyone?" No, it was just not going to happen. So I wouldn't want that responsibility on them. So what did I do? I did online dating. I did
Uh-huh.
5 years of online dating on and off because I had to take breaks or I would go nuts.
Right.
And that turned into a book because some things were so crazy that were happening that I just couldn't help but use that as fuel for a book because it was just hilarious at my expense, of course. But it was a big evolution for me in terms of discovering what I would tolerate, what I would not tolerate, what I wanted for a partner, and maybe staying open minded to people that you probably would never think about. So yes, I had a lot of different crazy stories to tell. So that produced a lot of writing. So that's the only nonfiction. It's a memoir that I did. Most of my writing now, it's either for Substack on these specific issues of heartbreak, divorce recovery, feminine wisdom, or it's completely creative in terms of fiction. I just love fiction too. So it's
Do
good.
you have any big
But
projects coming up or something in the works that's coming out
a book of
soon?
poetry probably this year. This year.
Okay.
I have enough poetry for probably more than one book, but I think a book of poetry, will be in the works. It's in the works.
Wow. Amazing. Well, we might need to have a follow-up conversation to share our stories from online dating. I've got a ton
Yeah,
too.
so
And talk about
one
learning.
of the big tips about post-divorce recovery. Do not jump in the dating pool right after. That is a no-no. That is a no-no. That's a big tip, and if anybody listening, don't do it because if you do, you're not ready and it's not gonna be pretty.
Well, I see a lot of value in that, but technically, I never had any break whatsoever because my ex-husband and I were in an open relationship. And so when our marriage
Okay,
dissolved, I was already in a relationship that overlapped. And so
okay.
this whole like spend time by yourself thing just never really happened until recently. And so then that
Yeah.
accelerated my healing. I was like, I am awesome all by myself.
I do think that being by yourself, that is a relationship. It's a
Hmm.
relationship with self, and you need to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
think
until I moved
that's a lot
here.
of it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I hadn't been by myself ever in my entire life, really.
Wow. Yeah. That's
So,
amazing. That's
it
amazing.
was it was an amazing experience. It didn't last very long. Now I'm in a relationship again, but I feel like I did develop a very great close relationship with myself, which then allowed me to launch into a perfect relationship. Anyway, Monica, thank you so much. This has been so
You're
fun.
welcome. It was so fun, and I feel like we could talk for hours and hours more about this. But yes, it's an opportunity, and I do see hope for every woman that's going through this. I do see this in their future.
Mhm.
You have to have hope. You can't lose hope, even if it hurts like hell.
You will get through it. That is for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Time is your friend, for sure.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll talk again.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Sashat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor de fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de tierra ven soplo de luz, soplo encantado. Viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de la selva.